I get asked from time to time, hey, Kevin, I want to give my wife, I want to give my child a life estate. Can I give a life estate? What does that mean? And can I do it? It sounds great. I want to do it. If that's you and you want to know more about life estate, then this video is for you. You're in the right spot. So we're going to be talking about what it means to give a life estate, why it can be a good thing, why probably there's a better choice. And so listen up. A life estate is basically this concept that we're going to give somebody a gift but we're going to hold on to it, but it is earmarked for them in the future. Kind of sounds like a beneficiary designation, doesn't it? It really is that concept. However, it's one of those gifts you can't take back. So unlike a beneficiary designation, which you can change, this is not one of them. And it involves real estate. So a life estate is not just for any type of property. We're talking about specifically real estate. Your home. Oftentimes it comes into play when we're talking about a primary residence. And a primary residence, the parent wants to live in the primary residence for, of course, as long as they can for the rest of their life, but they want to dedicate that primary residence to a beneficiary, often a child, maybe it's a grandchild. So they want to give them what's called a life estate. Now, and with real estate, we know that now since 2016 in California, you can do a transfer on death deed or TOD deed. Some other states in Arizona, we call those ladybird deeds. This is basically a beneficiary designation that is recorded and with a special form so that when you pass away, then named beneficiary or beneficiaries now become the owners of the house. So that's a form of a beneficiary designation with real estate. We can also name joint tenant in the situation that I, parent, now own with my child as joint tenants with the right of survivorship. So that if I die, my named child that I've been a joint tenant with, now they automatically own the house. That's another kind of schematic that we often see. Both of those are different from the life estate. The life estate is saying, it's a deed that is saying, I have now transferred the property to my child. Again, it could be anybody, but we're using the parent-child situation because that's the one we see most frequently. I'm going to pass it to my child. And so now there's a deed, a life estate deed that gets recorded. I pass it to my child. But that means now my child has a present beneficial interest, which means I cannot undo the deed. I cannot undo the deed unless they agreed. And I pass away. Now they become the fully vested sole owner of the property. So that gives me the ability during my lifetime, of course, to live on the property. They are not able to kick me out. They cannot sell it. They can't do anything other than realize that they have to let me live in it for as long as that's medically possible until I pass away. So again, that's different than a transfer on death deed. Why? Because you can change a transfer on death deed. All it is a beneficiary designation, just like any beneficiary designation form. You could throw out the old one, put in the new one. That's different than a joint tenancy, because joint tenancy, both people own the property. So you've given the property and both people own it. So you as the parent still own it and you can command the sale of it. Even if your child doesn't want you to sell it, you can go to court and pursue a partition sale and get the court to order that the property gets sold. Or if, of course, your child dies, the property then becomes yours. That's not true with a life estate. So be careful. As you give someone a life estate, they died. So dad gives son a life estate, son dies. That is not revert back to dad. That is not revert back to dad. Dad still has the life estate piece, but the beneficial ownership then goes to son's heirs, which may or may not be a good thing because maybe the heirs are minors. And now we have them or probate court anyway to determine who the heirs are. But now there's an extra challenge because the heirs are minors, or an extra challenge because the heirs aren't the intended recipients in your mind. You were willing to give it to your son, but you weren't willing to give it to your son's children or your son's spouse if they didn't, and because they could have been married, they go to the spouse first or split between the spouse and the children. So those are unintended results. So there are dangers with this life estate. Sounds good. I'm just going to live here till I die and have it go to my son. I want to make it, etch that in stone, and I don't want to pay the extra money to do a trust. So I'm just going to do the life estate. So what is a different option? Because we see transfer and death deeds, we can change. Maybe that's a good idea. those are fraught with all sorts of bureaucratic and all sorts of statutory issues. We don't want that. Those aren't really great in application. Title companies don't like them. So sale of a property inherited on a transfer and debt deed becomes problematic. Also, there's a host of issues there. And if we're looking at joint tenancy, host of problems there because you co-own the property, you're subjected to your child's liability. What if they got sued, got divorced? That affects your co-owned property. What if, like I said, the liabilities there? What if they wanted to sell the property and they took you to court to get a partition sale and got the court to forcibly sell the house? That's a problem. So joint ownership has issues. And then with the life estate we just talked about, there's issues there. So what is a non-issue way to effectuate the same result? How do I get the same result, Kevin, if I want to do that thing? I want to be able to pre-assign this home and I want to make sure that someone has the ability to live in it and inherit it. So how do I do that? What's that called? That's called a right of occupancy. And we can build in what's a right of occupancy in the trust. And for some reason, there's something in the air. In the last month, I've been having lots of conversations about right of occupancy. A lot of people have been asking about it. And it looked like this. You create a trust, you put your property in the trust, and you live in your house. It's your house while you pass away. And then when you pass away, you can say, I dedicate that house in this way. But while these other people are still alive, I want to give them the ability to live in the house. And I'm going to give them a right of occupancy. We see this a lot with second marriages. When it's one spouse home, they get married later in life, and now a new husband or wife are coming to live in that home. And you want to live that home. And so the situation, let's say it's a wife. The wife has her own home, they inherited it or whatever, and it's their home that they have, and then they get married, and their new husband comes and lives with them at their home. When they pass away, they want that home ultimately to go to their children or grandchildren, or at least the value of it. But they don't want to kick out their new husband at the time that they die. So what they want to do is, in their trust, they create a right of occupancy. So when the wife dies, then the husband has the right to live in the home. And when the husband dies or moves out of the home, down to the next generation, or the proceeds of the sale of the home could pass on to the next generation. So we build in conditions in a certain right. However, we have to be careful. We have to be very specific about what those conditions are. Is that person, in my example, is the husband going to have to pay rent? Is the husband going to have to pay mortgage? Husband going to have to pay property tax, utilities, maintenance on the property? What does maintenance mean? Is that just the gardener, or does that also mean deferred maintenance if there's a new roof, or if a pipe bursts, or a water heater bursts? Are we going to need any of that? Who's going to pay for that? We have to work through all those things. And when does that right of occupancy end? Is it going to be ending just on the death or on the move out? And so the move out could be because of health condition. They need assisted care outside of the home. They move into assisted living. At that point, does the right of occupancy end? Or is it supposed to be made and held in abeyance and made available? Are there going to be, if the person chooses to, the husband now gets remarried to somebody else, can that person move in with them? And that because they have a right of occupancy, right? Can they invite guests over? Can they have guests over? Can they have new spouses over living in the house? Can they rent rooms in the house? Can they sublet, basically? All those things have to be considered in this right of occupancy. Why? Because these are issues that come up later. And of course, there's going to be a tension between the next generation who's set to inherit and the person who has the right of occupancy. Now, I talked about an example with a husband and wife. This could be children, right? Well, I have an adult child that lives with me. When I pass away, I want that adult child to continue living in the home because they need a roof over their head. Maybe it's a failure to launch situation. Maybe that child left their career to come help me in my last years of my life. I need extra help, and they gave up a lot to come live with me to caregive, and they'd be my caregiver and take care of me. I want to make sure that person has a right of occupancy to stay in the house for a period of time so they can get their feet back under them and move on and have a good transition rather than getting potentially booted out of the house because the trustee or the rest of the family wants to sell the house, right? And we don't want that tension from the other siblings who may stand to benefit as beneficiaries from the sale of that house, saying, hey, brother or sister, you're like jamming me up. You got to move out so we can sell the house. And now all of a sudden we're in court because of your son or daughter is getting evicted by the trustee, or there's just bad blood in the relationships now with the siblings, your children. So we want to avoid those situations by being very clear of what the conditions of the right of occupancy are. And here with a child, it might not be the rest of their life, like it would be with a spouse. We have different terms. Okay, maybe it's for a year or conditions are met. And we want to be clear. We want to work through that and be discerning in that. So that's what we do in my office. We talk through this right of occupancy, play it out on the back end. And I can tell you, I know what that looks like because part of our practice is going to court, and we're in court on these issues and other matters on the other side. When other attorneys or other people putting trusts together, we're contemplating these potential results, and we're contemplating what the fallout might be with not thinking through all the terms of a right of occupancy. So we're dealing with that. We're in court for evictions, unlawful detainers. We're dealing with situations in which there's going to court to battle the trustee or defend against the beneficiaries attacking the person who's claiming to have a right of occupancy. So we want to avoid all those situations by having a thoughtful process in all of this. So that is a tidbit to come full circle and say, life estate, how do I get it? My advice would be not to do a traditional deeded life estate, but to incorporate the concept into a right of occupancy within a trust that we talk about and really get thoughtful about. And that will require understanding more of your family dynamics, of course, your rest of your assets, your wishes, how your children and spouses are set up, and bringing it all together in a very holistic, discerning manner. And that's what we do here at Snyder Law. We dream big and we help our clients dream big, and those dreams can come into fruition without challenge. So if this is something that resonated with you, please watch other great videos here. I love posting all this educational video and content. Super helpful, because these are things that I'm seeing because the people that weren't aware of these issues. But if it's something we can help you with, of course, love to help. We do estate planning, administration, probate, elder law, and litigation. So reach out to us if we can help in any of those areas. In the meantime, continue to be amazing.